it might not be your area of expertise as a comms agency, as an advertising agency, but blimey, if there's industrial action going on in a business, trust me, there's not much else going on in those management meetings other than going, how do we resolve this industrial action? So what can you do to help them? If there's production challenges, what can you do to help? Rather than coming in to sell more advertising, understanding that and saying, I see you got challenges with production. Actually, I think there's an opportunity here for you to, once your capacity constrained, you might want to do this with pricing or that. You might want to prioritize certain retailers, or just have a broader business perspective will help you to be then invited in more, to be this trusted advisor rather than just always staying in that point and shoot bucket.
My name's Mike Lander, and you're listening to Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast, where we bring you actionable insights about sales RFPs, negotiations, and difficult procurement discussions from sales leaders, brand leaders, and procurement leaders. Please subscribe to get updates when new episodes are released. Gareth, thanks ever so much for joining us on Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast today. Really delighted that you're here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be invited.
Gareth, it's not our first dance, as you said, is it?
No, I'm going to try and forget everything we've spoken about before and come at it fresh.
You're always fresh, Gareth. You're always fresh. So a bit about your background and what you do now, and then something unusual about yourself that maybe our audience wouldn't know. Okay.
So my background, 25 years plus in FMCG, really. So I was a long time at Heineken, where I did a number of roles there. I was lucky enough to do the last set of Peter Kay adverts for John Smith's.
Oh, amazing.
Great work with Bulmers. I'm very proud of that. Golden Arrow winning adverts, to give them their full title.
Wow.
I was at Arla Foods for 7 years, did a number of roles there, including the UK marketing director for butter, so brands like Lurpak, Anchor, and Private Label.
Yep.
It's a big piece of business for them. And then did a global repositioning, rebranding for the Arla brand. Then I was at Weetabix for 3 years, head of marketing at Weetabix. Did a few interesting things there, like the Beanz on Bix tweet, which sent the internet into meltdown in 2021, I think that was. And then I jacked it all in. I jacked in a great job to go and set up on my own. And I now have a company called Big Black Door, and I work with marketeers to get their marketing sorted. So that could be with time-poor, experienced brand directors, marketing directors, CMOs who just need a trusted pair of hands to do this thing.
Yep.
And so I can do that for them. I'm doing some great work, if I say so myself,
Very
with
good.
some brands, or it could be with people who are just a bit confused, perhaps people who are earlier in their brand journey that just don't know where to start.
Yeah. When
they've got so many opportunities that all seem plausible, you just need someone to point them in the right direction. So we can do that for them as well.
Brilliant. And something, in terms of something unusual, exactly, something that you do.
Passion.
Exactly.
Passion. I don't know if you can see in the background. So I live in Leeds, and I am still a Crystal Palace season ticket holder for my sins. And this is as good as it gets. Mid-table mediocrity is as good as it gets for Palace. So I don't get to many games, but I still keep those tickets. But and I'm a terrible footballer. But I played rugby when I was younger. But I love watching the Palace, and I help out with the North East Leeds under 10s, which my son plays in. And you know what? It's a great distraction from work. It's so rewarding to see the progress that those lads are making. So they're playing some great football at the moment, and they're very proud of their journey.
No, that's fantastic. And helping the next generation, I think, is a critical role in life for all of us. It's really important. That's a whole separate podcast episode, probably. Yeah. Anyway, so before we start the questions, Gareth, Beanz on Bix. What was Beanz on Bix?
Well, I'd say I like to claim credit for it, but it really was my team. And we did a tweet in 2021, I think it was, where we put some Heinz baked beans on some Weetabix and put a tweet out, and it went mad. We had 1.3 billion impressions of that.
1.3 billion?
Billion, yes, correct. It went mad for a week or so. Yeah, it was
on a tweet.
On a tweet, yes. It was. I'll share the link with you, Mike. You can put it in the notes.
Yeah, please do.
To prove it. It's probably bigger than that now, but that was some time ago. And Yeah, it won lots of awards, and it was on TV. It was debated. It was discussed in the House of Commons. It made it as a question on Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway. It was
wow.
It was big. It was a once in a career moment. I should always. I've made a mental commitment to always acknowledge Elaine Wan, who was my ABM at Weetabix, who made that happen, and Frank PR, who did it for us. So those two people deserve the credit, not me. I'm just riding on their coattails.
So, very very briefly, where did the idea come from? Where is the inspiration?
Well, the truth is that was just one execution from a long-standing campaign. So Weetabix, when I was there, I don't know, I'm not that close to it anymore, right? But when I was there, they had two strands of comms. They had sort of brand equity comms, and they had a strand of comms which was sort of recipe inspiration, ways to eat your Weetabix. And so this was just one more quite extreme way of demonstrating that. So it was about trying to be more relevant. There was a number of projects that came together, and we might talk about one of these later on, but a number of projects that came together, we went into social media in a way that we hadn't done before, and we pitched for an agency to find that, and that was Frank who won that. And you bring all those things together, and they encourage us to be bolder with our communications, and we had a number of ideas, or they had a number of ideas, and this was the one that ignited the imagination. We had a week of activity.
Yeah.
The first one was actually Marmite. So this was the Tuesday.
Yeah.
The Beanz on Bix. Monday was Marmite. I thought that was the one that was going to go the gangbusters, of course, right? But no, that went broadly unnoticed. and then Tuesday kicked in. It was
amazing.
It was big.
So that's a nice segue into agencies and the whole conversation we're going to have. So, can I start off with kind of like the question that we prepared kind of 2 or 3 questions. So, what are the biggest reasons agencies win and lose client briefs, and what should they do about it in your experience as a buyer?
And so, I should sort of say that all this is just one person's view.
Correct.
And so, I wouldn't want anyone to change what they do on the back of my ramblings. But
your brilliant insights rather than ramblings, Gareth. Yeah.
Well, that's very kind of you, Mike. If I think about how I score pitches, there are a number of things. There are a number of sort of sections, and there are loads of little lines in that. But at its best.
And this is in your role as a CMO, head of marketing, head of a brand, in that context.
Yeah. Yes. So I think we'll have briefed in a pitch, right? So we'll have briefed an agent, a number of agencies, hopefully not too many, and I have a scorecard, and in that scorecard, the number of sections. There's probably a section on have they understood the brief?
Yeah.
Have they? And I don't want the brief to be regurgitated verbatim. I just need like one slide just to understand, make sure that you've understood
exactly
what it is we're trying to do. Have they got the right strategy? Is the work okay? Have they got to the right, a plausible route? And can I work with them? Chemistry,
right?
And the chemistry is a bit of it's an emotive term, but can I see myself working with them? I just need to get a sense that I can work with these people going forward, that there's been some process or plan that's happened in the background that gets us to that work. I'm not that worried about whether the work's right or not, because in essence, a pitch presentation is almost like that first stage creative presentation.
So this is a really important point, I think a really important point, because a lot of agencies will put huge amounts of effort into the creative for the pitch. But what you're saying is, yeah, sure, you need to show up, and you need to show up with your talent, and you need to demonstrate what you can do. But I think, am I right in hearing, you're not looking for the answer, you're looking for, do you have a way of getting to an answer, and have you got the creative chops to impress us, even if it might not be the thing that we use in the end?
Yeah.
Is that where you're going?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And because if I in a let's say it wasn't a pitch, it's a brief to an agency, and you get if you're lucky, 2 or 3 stages of creative development. You never get the answer in the first presentation. So why would you expect to get the answer in a pitch?
Correct.
You've got even less chance of getting it in a pitch. But I just need to get a sense that you could do good work. Well, I suppose that's not in doubt, right? Because you're in the mix. But is it plausible? And can we work together to get to work that works for all of us?
Yeah,
that is maybe slight nuance. Maybe actually they just missed something that you really wanted in the brief, and that's a fault of the brief, by the way. That's not a fault of the agency. If in a perfect world, the brief is a collaboration. That doesn't really work in pitches, and that's the one of the many problems with pitches. And we should remember that no one likes pitches. So it's very well publicised that agencies don't like pitches.
Yep.
I totally buy that. Brian, we don't like them either.
Yeah.
It's the drain on resource for agencies and clients. If you think about all the chemistry meetings, the presentations, the tissue meetings, the all this stuff, it's days and days and days. So, and then you've got the emotional challenge of telling someone they haven't won, telling 2 or 3 people they haven't won.
Yeah.
So that's no one enjoys. It seems glamorous when you're an ABM setting out, right? But it's not glamorous at all. It's hideous.
So Gareth, in that case, and there was some research apparently done by Forrester recently, which I've not looked at yet. Blair Enns pointed to it. If that is the case, then why are so many pitches run?
I don't know. I've never run that many pitches. I've run some. So that I referenced earlier on the Weetabix social media pitch that we had, because we didn't have a strategic partner for social, and so we needed to find one. And so actually, it is a good way of if you make it as close to real life working as possible, and that's why it takes time to do a good one. That's why there's a lot of effort required in it. You need to brief properly.
Yeah.
You need to be available for people to have a tissue meeting, to check in on stuff, to answer questions, times 3 or 4, however many agencies you're briefing. So it is important to keep it as close to real life, because then you're back to the sort of 4 sections I might have in a scoring. One of them is chemistry, or how can I work with these people? Well, you get a better sense of that if you've worked with them for a period of weeks. So I think that why you would have a brief would be, I think, if there's a genuine, you need to find someone to do something new, or I mean, again, this is sometimes there are other forces at play in a business that say you need to have a pitch. Sometimes your boss says, I'm not happy with agency X, and as the brand director or head of marketing, something you need to just you have to make these things happen. And I think you can do that in an honest and transparent way with agencies. You can treat everyone with respect, and not if it's a cost saving exercise, then let's have that conversation and be honest with people that this is we're not sure we can afford agency X anymore, and they've got an opportunity to choose to pitch or not.
So Gareth, on that point, and I can say, I think with some authority as an ex-procurement director, in the situations you've described, I think the last one about, well, we just need to save some cost. There are much easier and better ways of saving money than running a pitch.
Yes.
If I was tasked with saving money, I could go, and as long as the agency is doing great work, I can go to the agency and have a conversation and structure all sorts of interesting commercial deals that benefit the client and benefit the agency. But recognizing if we're going to reduce our total spend, as David Meikle was saying the other day, then you're reducing your investment. Well, then your returns are going to go down. But if that's just the pressure that's on the business, you don't need to pitch that. I can do that in different ways.
I think Weetabix are a good example of doing things the right way. So again, I want to got to keep it broadly open, right? But they had that conversation with an agency once. I'm not going to tell you what discipline, etc. it was, but it was, we said, look, I think we're just spending too much money here.
Yeah.
And, we sort of jokingly called it, in transparency with the agency, it's the pitch that isn't a pitch. We're just being honest. We need to save some money here. Yeah? Help us out.
Be creative.
You can do that by reducing the number of people, the hours. Are we not giving you feedback in the right way? What can we do to help you save some money as well?
Are we causing you to be inefficient by doing 5 or 6 reworks because our team aren't responding in a timely manner?
Yes.
So practical things like that.
Yep. Indeed.
If you just switch sides for a second, so if you were on the agency side and you were pitching because it was a new piece of work, or you'd scored it using your RFP scorecard and you were like, yeah, we're going to go for this. If you were the lead on that pitch and you were preparing for that pitch as an agency, what do you think are the 2 or 3 things where you go, we've got to nail these 2 or 3 things or else we aren't going to be in the top 2? What would you say they are? Not prepared,
chemistry,
but
some basics, right? But chemistry is important. I'm not sure how helpful that would be to say to a member of the team, we need to be better at chemistry. I mean, I don't know exactly what that means in tangible terms.
But things like researching your client on LinkedIn, finding out what their backgrounds are.
Well, and what their, again, we might touch on this later on, but what's going on for them?
Yeah.
What's going on for the business? What are the pressures in that business? What's going on for the category? So there's some of that stuff. I agree. But for me, the big thing is the sort of the process and the logic flow in that deck. So give me something that's memorable, because you can think about what I'm doing in that presentation or in that day, and let's be generous and say it's a day. It might go across 2 or 3 days, depending how involved it is. But I'm probably seeing 3 presentations. I'm telling you, a lot of them are going to be quite similar.
Yeah.
So give me something to differentiate yourselves, to make yourselves distinctive.
Exactly.
To use it correctly. What's the hook? What's the thing? Oh, they were the one that did the thing about.
That's right.
It was all about the thing, right? And so that give me something there, and make the logic flow. I can think of an example in a pitch that I was involved in many years ago, where there was, we loved the agency. There was some great strategy. So chemistry good, great strategy. And then they showed the creative, and it was like they just met in the car park.
Right.
The creative bore no resemblance to the strategy that had gone before.
I was having this conversation this morning. It's bonkers. Why would you split strategy and creative? It's crackers.
But given that I'm more interested in I need the strategy to be right, and the strategy was good, and just show me that you can do that. Show me a plausible route in. And so what got us worried there was that, well, you've been working sort of separately and you've crashed these together, and is that how you work?
Exactly.
It sets alarm bells ringing elsewhere, and I'm thinking, well, what sort of robust conversations are going on in the agency about the work that's being shared? And then when so you got agency A doing that, and then agency B, who is showing great strategy, probably not dissimilar.
Yep.
But then showing how that work then could be executed. Well, okay, this suddenly looks a lot easier for me now as a client. So make sure that it all hangs together. And given that you don't need to do, I don't think people need to do, loads of detailed work. Black and white scamp is fine for me to show, give me a sense of what this thing looks like, or just some words on a page, just some words on a page, a script, just a script. You don't need to. I don't need to have it all videoed and mocked up and all that stuff. I just need to. Okay, and now I see how that might be executed.
Yeah, exactly. So
across a variety of media, actually, for me. So what again? I think the times are changing, but 5-10 years ago, all I would see is a TV script. Okay, but I've got radio, I've got outdoor, I've got social media, I've got all these other, I've got PR, I've got all these other channels, and yet you're leading with a TV script. It'd be lovely to see a 6-sheet as the lead piece of creative in a full media mix.
Exactly. Okay. Second question. So, what role should procurement play when securing new agencies?
So my view on that is that the procurement role is a support role. Ultimately, the decision is a creative, strategic marketing decision to appoint an agency or not. So what's the role of procurement? The role is to keep my process robust, defensible, keep me honest. So I'm treating people with respect, and that I'm not taking the mick with people. And then, I mean, we've spoken about this before on some previous conversations we've had, but the job then is to get the best deal possible from the supplier I've chosen.
Yeah,
within reason, right? And so, there's no. I was on a panel once, and somebody said, "But procurement make the decision on which agency to appoint." I said, never in my experience.
Right.
And I may have told them that procurement made that decision.
Yeah.
But the reality is that's a cop out from me for something else. And so, because pitches are often quite close, that's the other thing to bear in mind, is that I may have scored. There may be a scorecard. Let's say there's 3 people pitching.
Yeah.
You might. I don't want them out. Let's say it's out of 50. I might get someone at 40, someone at 39, someone at 25. And at 40, 39, that's just a judgment call on something. So,
correct.
There's and I probably haven't got a good reason to tell the person who's on 39 why they didn't get it. Or it may be, okay, that doesn't kind of feel right, so I'm just going to go with the 39 anyway. And it's a way of benchmarking, but it's not the absolute. And so, because we're dealing with opinions, that's quite a hard thing to feed back to people. So my job then, once I've made that decision, is to get the best deal possible, and and that's where the procurement team come in. That's where the best ones have helped me out over the years. And sometimes the agency says, no, not if, this is the deal we're offering.
Yep.
Do you want it or not? And I've had an example where the procurement director has come back and said, we tried, we can't get anything better out of them. Our recommendation is that they're quite expensive, but it's your call.
Exactly.
And okay, noted, accepted. But I think their work was so significantly better than everyone else, then I think we should go with it. And an example of that, in a similar vein, is I mentioned Peter Kay at the start, right? So when we did that at John Smith's, we were in the pre-production meeting, and Peter Kay had turned us down for doing it. He didn't want to do it, and because his career had moved on, and he'd been a sort of superstar versus where he'd been previously in his previous set of John Smith's ads. And so we had somebody else lined up, and in the production meeting, which we go through the document, and we get to casting, and there's this person, and they said, we've had a phone call, Gareth. We've had a phone call from Peter's agent, and he's changed his mind. He said he'd do it. And he was, I'm going to say, I can't do the maths quickly in my head.
Yeah.
He was about 5 or 6 times more expensive than the person we had agreed on.
Wow.
And again, I wasn't the decision maker in that. I was working with a brilliant marketeer who's gone on to very, very great things. And he said, we'll do it. Because that was a creative decision.
Correct.
People would have been saying, they were good. They weren't quite as good as the Peter Kay ones. And that's not what we wanted. So, and it gets cut through. It got us PR. Then got Peter Kay was, when we announced we're bringing Peter back, because he'd gone away and gone down another route, bringing Peter back. He was then on the BBC. He was doing his talk show sort of appearances, mentioning it. He presented the Grand National Trophy that we sponsored as well. And so that got primetime coverage. So these were all the things we wouldn't have got if we had gone with somebody else who was brilliant, but just wasn't Peter Kay. That was the thing.
And again, I think that underlines 2 points to me. One, it's a strategic investment, not a cost to be minimised. And 2, the very idea that you would pick the lowest cost producer versus a higher impact but more expensive solution is bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah, you're looking
We're not buying nails.
No, and you're looking for the cut through and effectiveness, and if I went down an efficiency route, then I may just go down the cheapest. But there's a balance. Can we get more cut through? Can we do a better ad? Can we get better sales as a result of this? And we believed we could do that.
So, third question, conscious of time. So, how can agencies build credible relationships with you as a CMO outside of the kind of RFP pitch cycle? Because it's an age-old problem, is how on earth does an agency kind of start to get to know you and you start to get to know them?
So I did a couple of years ago, I did some thinking about this, and I ran some research and into what were the drivers of the best and worst client agency relationships. And the number one thing was a mutual understanding. And that's for clients to understand agencies. Yep. But the question you've asked about agencies and clients, and that's about understanding the brief and the business. That kind of goes without saying, but you'd be surprised that not everyone does that. But then also the human that's behind that job. So I've got CMO on my business card, on my email. Do people still have business cards? Probably not. On my email address. But what does that mean? And what is that? What sort of business is that person? Is it a conservative business, or is it a risk-taking business? Is that person ambitious, or are they just seeing out time until retirement? Is the business doing well or not? Is the marketing perceived to be doing well? So there's this whole sort of stuff going. There's stuff that's going on behind the brief. Might help you to understand the sort of things that are going on for that human being in that job. It could be they've just been promoted into that job and they're feeling a bit exposed. It could be that they haven't been trained. It could always different things. So understanding that then helps your client look great inside their business. And I think that's the job of an agency, is to make their client look amazing.
Correct.
Internally, where relevant. And when I say look amazing, that could just be not a risk taker. It could be deliver safe work. That could also be amazing for that individual and that business. But you need to understand what's going on for them, and maybe help them protect reputation, or to navigate some tricky internal situations. And I had that. I wasn't a CMO by any stretch of imagination. When I was working on the Bulmers brand, I was struggling to get some work signed off internally. I was struggling to get sign off of a big project, and the planning director at that business, the agency, saw that and asked me a few questions about what was going on. They could have just sort of said, "Why can't you get that signed off, Gareth? What's going on? That's your job to get that signed off." But he took me to one side and sort of said, "Look, actually, I think you can probably compromise on that. Right. Let that go. Don't. I know that's not true to consumer insight. That thing that your boss is telling you to put in. But let's keep bigger picture here, Gareth.
Yeah.
We can win the war here. Not let's lose that. Let's choose to strategically lose that battle." And that was a moment for me to see the bigger picture and be pragmatic in getting stuff going forward. I'd made my case for this thing. I could have dug my heels in, and we're just battling, or we try and move on. And so that was an example of someone who really understood me, the challenges I was having internally. I was in a new role, and the business was under a bit of pressure at that point, and that was a great example of him seeing the human behind the job title.
So there's a very good piece of work done many years ago, 10, 20, 30 years ago, I think, by a guy called David Meister, called The Trusted Advisor. And when I was in professional services at the very beginning of my career in 93, we were told to read the book and then talk about the insights. And it stuck with me for like 30, 40 years about where you're trying to get to as an agency, as a consultant, is the trusted advisor to the client. The fact that you would open up, if I was the lead for the agency, that you would open up to me, talk about your internal challenges, and then ask my advice. That's where you want to get to. But to do that, you don't do that in a week. That can take, in my case, the longest time it's taken is 10 years.
Right.
And obviously between 3 months and 10 years, there's a spectrum. But you have to invest time in understanding these senior people.
But I think you can, there are two routes into that. So I think when the reality is that most agencies get invited in what I'm going to slightly rudely call in a point and shoot capacity.
Yes.
I need an ad making, I need some media buying, I need a shelf barker. Can you do that for me? Yes, we can. Great. And then over time, you might get invited in to be that trusted advisor.
Yeah.
On your trajectory. If you're an agency, I think you can fast track that slightly by understanding the broader business, understanding the broader business challenges, making introductions, by challenging. Have you thought about doing? I noticed you're doing this.
Yeah.
Have you thought about doing it another way? And just being a bit challenging, but in a nice way. I'm not saying you don't want to be a dick, but
exactly,
you can still be challenging or offering an insight into a problem. If you've got, I don't know, industrial action going on, it might not be your area of expertise as a comms agency, as an advertising agency. But blimey, if there's industrial action going on in a business, trust me, there's not much else going on.
That's right.
In those management meetings other than going, how do we resolve this industrial action? So what can you do to help them?
Yeah.
If there's production challenges, what can you do to help them? Rather than coming in to sell more advertising, understanding that and saying, I see you got challenges with production. Actually, I think there's an opportunity here for you to, whilst you're capacity constrained, you might want to do this with pricing or that.
Exactly.
You might want to prioritize certain retailers, or just have a perspective on a broader business perspective.
Yeah,
will help you to be then invited in more to be this trusted advisor, rather than just always staying in that point and shoot bucket.
And even some basic stuff, Gareth. Like if they're a PLC, read the quarterly reports, understand what's going on for the business. To your point, read the CEO statement, the CFO statement, the CMO statement. Listen to what the analysts are saying. Look at the analyst reports. There's loads of things you can do to work out what's going on in the business.
Oh, and put in place a quarterly catch-up.
Exactly.
Where you're not talking about the work, but you're talking about a mutual understanding. So I was very clear that's a mutual understanding on each other's businesses.
Yeah.
And so we had that at Weetabix with our lead agencies, and it was a two-way conversation. So we would talk about what's big for us.
Yeah.
But then the agency would encourage them to tell us if they were pitching for stuff. So if I can't get hold of Fred, who's working on my account because he's tied up with a big pitch for some business, well, just tell me that.
Let me know.
Tell me that. That's okay. Tell me, because you've got a business to run too.
Correct.
Well, just tell me about that. Tell me about you've got a staff turnover problem. Tell me, what can I do to help you?
Exactly.
With that. There was another agency who was losing their staff from agency side to client side, and they were losing good people they didn't want to lose. I said, but can we help you with that? Why don't you embed some people in our business?
Right.
And does that scratch the itch for them?
Right.
For 6 months as like a swap? Can we get some of our team into your business as a role swap?
Brilliant. So, Gareth, I love our conversations, and it's that kind of it's like we're having a bit of coffee over a few questions that we kind of thought of in advance. So, in summary, what do you think? What's the big takeaways for agencies in summary from this conversation?
Boy, I suppose don't undervalue the chemistry. I'm going one big takeaway, right? I'm calling it chemistry. And that's understanding and in its broadest terms. The business, the human, the challenges, the brief. You're scratching beneath the surface of what's being provided in a Word doc if you're unlucky.
Yeah.
But and that will give you better chemistry. That will give you, and whether you're pitching for work or whether you're an incumbent, I think you got less chance of losing it if that person sees you as a confidant and an advisor, and you've got more chance of winning it if within a 2 or 3 month period you've suddenly become this sort of person who's in a nice way challenging my thinking.
Exactly. Gareth, it's been amazing. Thank you ever so much. Where can people find out more about you?
LinkedIn, I suppose. I can look at, I'm pretty prolific on LinkedIn. You can find me there, or on my website, bigblackdoor.com.
Brilliant. Gareth, thanks for joining us on Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast. It's been amazing. Thank you. Thanks for listening to Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast series with your host, Mike Lander. Please subscribe so that you'll catch all the next episodes.